Weekdays 3 to 7, 1080 The Fan. Horses for courses. Not that kind of course.
And here we go to close out the year in Major Championship Golf. This is going to be your Player of the Year. And we have a shining star at sunset. Rory continues his run to greatness.
This is Dirt and Sprague on PGA Championship Week.
Brought to you by Langdon Farms Golf Club, the best course in the Northwest for year-round golf. Book your tee time at langdonfarms.com.
Dirt and Sprague on 1080 The Fan.
All right, welcome back in. Hour number 2, Dirt and Sprague here. Good morning. Your morning roasters. Didn't get my coffee today.
Got a Celsius over there? I got double coffee, but I didn't bring any food. I forgot to pack food.
Yeah, see, that's why I didn't come in ready. I'm leaving as soon as the show's done. I'm going home, and I'm going to actually cook and eat some food for myself. And
I'll probably go pound a couple glizzies at the course.
Yeah,
get
for
some,
sure.
Get some meat in me.
I don't know why you need to do that.
Get some meat in me?
Okay. We will get some college football odds and ends at 7:15 today.
No, dude, get right to the meat.
I plan on it.
He
Probably
will.
about 9:30 this morning.
He never hesitates.
Be on the range at 9:45 with a couple of glizzies down. It's a
Okay.
great Thursday.
So we're in the trust tree?
Yeah.
How much combine you following?
I actually have seen a little bit of it.
Really?
Yeah.
You going out and looking for it? or-
Not really. It's kind of popping up on my timeline from time to time. It's not something I'm seeking out. It just kind of, it's finding me. I'm not finding it.
Okay.
Can I give you a hot take?
Yeah.
Bronny looks pretty good.
He was, the leading scorer in their scrimmage yesterday.
The spacing on the floor a little bit better. His vertical was good. I don't know what he's going to be in the NBA. I'm not overreacting to hey, top 10 pick, but he was not good. I remember I watched a couple USC games this year, and I'm like, all right. But then you get him in this setting, and he looks a lot better.
I'd just say on the Bronny stuff, second-round dude, unless there's a team at the back end that's hoping to get Braun, so they take him with the 29th pick or something.
Yeah.
I find the whole thing interesting. He definitely, from a stats and numbers and physical metric standpoint, doesn't smell like somebody should be at the combine.
No.
Obviously, we know nepotism runs through American history, but I'm also rooting for him. He does seem like a genuinely grounded kid who, growing up in that spotlight, not easy. And, I liked watching him play at the LSI. I thought it was cool that he was the leading scorer yesterday. At least gave himself some can you just stop acting like I can't play basketball at all?
Yes, I know how to play. I'm not a top 10 pick. I'm not a lottery pick, but I know how to play basketball. He had a really good answer, too, on if he wants to play with his dad or if that's something that they talk about. And he was like, no, dude, I'm trying to make a name for myself, man. It's been my dream to go to the NBA. I'm not just doing this so I can go play on the same team as my dad. I'm just trying to make it.
Raphael Barlow is covered NBA draft stuff for a long time. He's now doing his own Patreon, the NBA Big Board. And he released a new report yesterday out of the Combine in Chicago. And he just talked about how challenging this draft has become for a lot of personnel and execs throughout the league.
Mm-hmm.
Teams that have high picks and teams that are either back in first round or not really interested all that much. He noted one scout expressed frustration saying, quote, man, you know what? I find myself dropping guys more than putting guys up, end quote.
Yeah.
Another scout admitted, quote, it's a unique draft. I mean, we talked yesterday as a staff, and we're kind of, as crazy as it sounds, we're kind of glad we don't have a lottery pick, end quote. Another one said, quote, it's a difficult year for everyone. It's tough for teams trying to schedule workouts while working with agents who are trying to find a draft floor for their clients. So, where should I send my client? Is he a top 8 pick?
Right.
Is he a back-end lottery guy? Is he a lottery guy? I don't know.
You're drafting 23rd overall. We don't want you to work out with him, but he might not be drafted that high.
Zaccharie Risacher.
Yes, the Frenchman.
The 6'10 French wing, who, if you saw him, built kind of skinny, but skinny buff is kind of how I'd classify his build. He could probably gain a couple more pounds in the NBA. He is projected in some mocks to maybe be number 1. I still think it's going to be Sarr.
Yep.
But Risacher, and again, the Blazers, I don't know how real it is the Blazers will have a shot at him because, well, it's a draft of a crapshoot. One scout said on Risacher going number 1, I've seen him number one on some draft boards. That's a risk there. You better have some good job security if you're going to make that call. That could hit or it could be a miss. I like Risacher, but is he that much better than Ryan Rupert? I've seen Michael Porter Jr. comps, and I get it. There are similarities, but Porter Jr. landed in the perfect spot.
So we're already doing is he better than Ryan Rupert, our second-round pick from last year? Look at us, baby.
The guy that might be number one in this draft has a scout. And we don't know the teams. We don't know how high level the scout is. A scout openly telling a reporter anonymously, is he better than a second-round project that the Portland Trailblazers have?
I saw this quote yesterday, and it sent me running for the hills because I've never watched this dude play basketball in my life. He's from France. I don't watch a lot of French basketball. I know. Shocking breaking news on a Thursday morning. I did see Ryan Rupert play this year. I saw a few moments of him in NBA action, and he does not look anywhere near ready to be an NBA player in a rotation.
You saw how big his feet were.
He's got big feet, though. He's got big wingspan.
He ain't done growing.
And if you're telling me that you're not sure if a guy who I also have seen multiple mocks having him go number one overall might not be better than the guy who the Blazers got in the back end of the second round last year, dude, what happened? How did we not have any better players this year?
Here's the second scout on him. He's shooting the ball, but he can't put it on the floor. He can't. I just don't see how you can take him number one. You can't take a wing that high that cannot put the ball on the floor to create. I mean, it's like, you get a 3-and-D wing anywhere in the draft. Yeah. You can find a good 3-and-D wing in the 20s, but in this draft, he's a top 5 pick, and he'll be able to help a team because he can shoot, and he doesn't need the ball to be impactful. Another scout added, I really hope he doesn't go number one for his sake, just because I don't think it would be fair to him to have the pressure of being the top pick when his game isn't suited for a heavy usage or star role. If he goes to a team that already has their star in place, he'll be okay, but if the cupboard is bare, and he's being billed as the new franchise guy, it's going to be some problems.
That's a tough thing to live up to because none of these guys, you could argue, are worthy of being a number one overall pick in most normal drafts, right? Like if these guys were put into last year's draft class, how many of them go in the top 10? How many of them go in the top 15? Your draft order probably isn't changing a lot from last year. Victor's still clearly number one. Miller's number two. So these guys, when you're drafted number one overall, like you're seen as the savior of a franchise. When you're a top 3 pick, like look at how we handled Scoot Henderson for the last year as a 19-year-old kid. We had massive expectations on him coming in right away to try and have an impact, and it didn't get off to a good start, and there's a lot of pressure on you. These guys are not worthy of being drafted where they're going to be drafted, and I don't wish that on any of them because I don't think any of them are worthy of being a number one pick.
I think it highlights the difficulty for Joe. The Crone Zone.
The Crone Zone. Good luck, man.
Well, I mean, yeah.
You just take.
There's a little bit of that. They got such bad luck on that draw.
Yeah.
And look, I don't want to. I think sometimes our show can relitigate every bad choice they've made along this journey. Mm-hmm. I kind of want to just focus on what they're doing now going forward, and then be fair on that stuff. So Shaden and Scoot are very big question marks, right, going into their next year. I don't know how at 7, when you have a draft with this kind of reputation, and again, I still think some of this stuff is going to change.
Somebody's going to pop from this draft.
Somebody will pop.
It will happen.
Multiple guys will be role players. There's going to be other guys who develop, and in 4, 5, 6 years, you go, oh, man, I wish we would have got him. Like, it's going to be, hindsight won't be that. It's got to be really hard for the general manager of our basketball team to sit there and go, well, who the hell's falling to us? Like, how do you create a mock? How do you do a big board, right? I'm sure they have a big whiteboard in their offices in Tualatin, and Alex Sarr is number 1, right? He's not going to be at 7. There's not a chance in hell.
No.
And unless you've got some deal where you're sending Atlanta some stuff with your 2 firsts, and because you like them that much, that's not possible. How do you even do a mock draft board when you're at 7 in a draft where the guy projected by some to be number 1 is comped to a second-round project player that you currently have that you didn't even want on your roster the full season because he was a remix player half the year. Yeah. So this isn't trying to make an out for Cronin. This is just this has got to be one of the harder drafts as a general manager to figure out how you sort out.
Look, the draft almost year in and year out is essentially a roll of the dice. You're buying a lottery ticket and you hope your numbers come up, right? You do all the evaluation you want. You do all the scouting you want. Predominantly, the history tells us if you want an MVP or an elite player, you got to draft him in the top 5 or the top 10. Most players in the NBA who go on to have elite careers are drafted in that window, and then you get your outliers, your random guys. But to your point about this draft class and there maybe being value somewhere, the Anthony Bennett draft is the one that we all circle and say, going into it at least, the last time we felt this way about a draft, at least from my vantage point, was probably that one in 2013. Do you know who was in the 2013 draft?
Yeah.
Giannis Antetokounmpo.
And C.J. McCollum.
Yes, we took C.J. McCollum instead of Giannis. Thank you for the reminder. You know who else was in that draft? Rudy Gobert.
Yeah.
He was the 27th overall pick to the Denver Nuggets, who then traded him, I believe, to Utah on draft night. So you got a 3-time Defensive Player of the Year. You got a multiple-time MVP. And a couple – Tim Hardaway Jr. was at the back end of that first round.
CJ, not
CJ's
an all-star,
had a
but
good
CJ was
career.
a good career. He's had a great career. He's an elite scorer in his prime.
There's not – KCP was a top – so there's –
KCP, but
right?
see, that's kind of my –
Go find a KCP and I'm
Yes,
happy.
Yeah. And look, KCP took a while to pop. It didn't start out well in Detroit.
No.
I remember having debates with people who's better, KCP or CJ, and for a long time, CJ won that. KCP popped with that bubble Laker team. He has been outstanding from Denver. And the unfortunate thing is the math at 7 paired with the history of the NBA draft says if you get a guy and he pops, he probably doesn't pop until he goes to the next team.
Because you're usually a bad team.
Well, because usually you're bad, and it takes them a few years to kind of get what the NBA is.
Frustration builds from the fan base, from the player, from the organization.
There was a really good piece a while back that got put on my timeline yesterday. Kyle Mahoney, who writes for The Ringer, did an interview with Aaron Gordon and basically said, who's the next Aaron Gordon? The guy who's billed as a star, but not a star, but damn it, if you put him in the right spot, he can look really good.
As a number 3, he can be an elite player.
And I find that such an interesting question to ask a player like Aaron Gordon, because I think Aaron Gordon, who basically said as much, like, you come in and you think, I'm Mr. Big Time. Your team's not very good. You're supposed to be the best player. You kind of have to do some mental makeup there of, okay, maybe you're not the guy,
you lose
but you
your
could be a
confidence.
guy.
Yeah.
And he identified Scotty Barnes. And it's funny that came on because I talked to Danny a couple of weeks back before we did a pod, and I didn't say I said I'm out on Scotty Barnes as a 1. I don't think he's a 1. I'm not even sure he's a 2. But Scotty Barnes on the right situation could be a damn good 3, a very good piece. So it was funny that got put in my timeline. You're kind of just, I think, hoping for that. The realistic possibilities of finding the franchise guy or the dog that they're trying to identify, if Shade and Scoot aren't it, it's not something that I think mentally as Blazer fans or people who cover the team, we should be having open conversations about. It's not realistic.
No, it's not. It also, you do have to remind yourself, we do this a lot with the NFL, but you're going to get these kind of quotes, right? Like, is he a Ryan Rupero, guy who was drafted in the 2nd round last year? How much of that is coming from teams who potentially want him to fall in the draft? They maybe are higher.
They're trying to depress the assets,
this guy's not that good. He can't even put the ball on the floor. He can't even dribble.
Right.
You're not going to take him with a top 5 pick, are you? You idiots. So you're going to get a lot of that mixed messaging that is out there. But based on what we're seeing from the reports and the opinions of this draft class, I will go back to reaffirm something that I said earlier this week, and I will stand firm on until draft day. Do not draft a guard. I don't think there's that guy in this draft class that's going to be an MVP, that's a can't-miss prospect. It's a different thing if you have a number 1 pick, but you're built around guards, but the best prospect in that draft is a guard, and you're like, damn it, what do we do? Give Scoot and Shade in a year, and if you can plug a hole with a role player at small forward, power forward, or center, that is a win to me at number 7 or at number 14, and you take it and you run to next year's draft class where you hopefully have a top 3 pick.
And that's where we probably disagree. And I can't believe I found myself here, but I'm just in a spot where nothing appears to be changing on the horizon. You have to trust the general manager in the front office and the scouting department.
See, and
if Mike Schmitz is one of the people that's like, this Topic kid is amazing.
If he's there at 7.
Okay. But if he takes him, it's going to be controversial because of their guard situation.
Absolutely.
And I'm going to sit here and say, all right, let's see it then.
Well, here's what my counter argument to that would be, is that if you were drafting a guard, it's telling me that you are not an internal believer in Scoot Henderson. Would you agree with that?
If it's a point guard specifically, yeah.
Yeah, right? Like you're saying he's not the guy.
If Castle was to fall and he won't because he seems like he's Josh Hart 2.0.
Sure.
Then, yeah, it's a little different. But, yeah, if it's a point guard, absolutely.
Okay, the last mock, by the way, I did see had them taking Castle with the 7th overall pick.
I don't think he's going to be there.
And he might not be there.
But if he is, please, I won't be mad.
So, but my thing of not trusting them would be you literally just drafted a point guard a year ago.
I know.
So now you're giving up on him a year later because if you draft a point guard, you're log jamming that position. I think you're restricting the development of both guys because they're both going to have to play. They're both best with the ball in their hands. You can't play them at the same time.
I know.
So you're restricting the growth and the experience that both of them will get. And I can't, if you're telling me you whiffed on the number 3 pick last year, now you want me to trust you with the number 7 pick in a worse draft class? There is zero trust there, buddy. Zero.